talk about the history of literacy is in some ways a frustrating discussion, because if somebody were to Google or look in the library for history of reading or history of writing or even the history of numeracy, you'd find a lot. You'll find almost nothing on the history of literacy. They're not the same thing. Literacy comes out of putting one layer of values and knowledge over on top of another. That's the history of it. To be literatus was the ability to speak as the Romans spoke. Today we have a whole movement which was established in Canada by the missionaries probably, but one of the first programs that we seem to know about is 1859 at the YMCA, which was in Kingston, Ontario. There, literacy was a program of reading, writing, and mathematics, but you want to be sure this is in English. That would be my point out of the literatus. It's not merely the functions, it's also the values, the culture, the knowledge. For better or worse, literacy has had this power in Canada and other countries. So when we say literacy now in Canada, we're talking about the English, we're talking about French, but we're not talking about Mi'kmaq. We're not typically talking about Cree. We have narrowed the discussion. In some ways, it hasn't changed much since the Roman Empire. That needs to be discussed and thought about. What do we mean by literacy? Who's in and who's not in? We have all sorts of questions that should be raised in literacy, but I think the most immediate one is, what is the history of our own programs? And we have a project started with the Ontario Literacy Coalition, with Jody Lundgren, where programs across Ontario, and I hope this will be picked up across Canada, are starting to look at where did their program come from. With the learners, the teachers, the practitioners are starting to ask who founded this program, who are the heroes, who are the heroines that got our program started, how is it shaped the way it is shaped, what were their struggles, what were their successes, what could we learn from this past, and what should we challenge about the past that we have inherited. Hoping that with the efforts of the OLC, we'll start to establish where our programs came from, and we'll begin to have a real history, a living history, which the learners and the teachers together will begin to create. We need this very much because we have a long history. Reading and writing, as I say, goes back 4 millennia. Literacy itself as a field of practice and study and research goes back somewhere into the mid-1800s. Surely it's time to have a living history of where we came from, what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and if nothing else, that we would take more pride in the fact that we have this long history, we have these successes, and we also have challenges. History matters. A lot of people would say, no, 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 what happens today and what needs to happen tomorrow, that's all we're caring about. I think the evidence will show that more effort put into where we came from, how we built the field, how we overcame other problems in the past. These are not the worst of times. We can learn from the past, and we can build a stronger field if we learn from our own history. So we're starting to do that, and it's exciting. It's exciting for me as an academic because it means people are writing their own history. Somebody's not writing a book about them, people are writing it about themselves. So we look forward to a better future in adult literacy by knowing more about our own past.